The crisis. Everything is crumbling. I know you guys can feel it too. The sense of impending doom, the utter inability to be able to have conversations with people, the sense that a chapter of an era is over and we are heading into uncharted waters. What is going on here? We'll try to break it down into 3 different parts. Every human is walking around with a contract to society, whether we know it or not. Man is born free, and everywhere they are in chains. Think about the highest form of freedom that you possibly can. I know for myself that would involve things like living off the grid, growing my own food, building what I want, where I want, and at my own schedule. Complete and absolute freedom. But there's a catch. You see, if I get sick, I'm going to have to depend on somebody else to be able to provide for me. Or if I have some materials that I don't already possess, I'm going to have to seek somebody out who has those materials for me. And I'm going to have to trade some of that freedom, some of that liberty that I have in order for some securities. Even defending ourselves against Mother Nature requires us to live in different groups. So we sacrifice these liberties until the point where we live in societies. And whenever you live in a society and you develop these rules and these laws, you have a social contract. And the basis of that social contract is, I will agree to be governed as long as I can maintain some of my most valuable liberties, be that what they may. And it seems that's what society is looking to renegotiate right now. Now, history does not repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. You know how everybody keeps making references comparing right now to the 1930s and 40s? It's sounding pretty oddly familiar, and there's a reason why. There was a theory put forward by William Strauss and Neil Howe back in 1991, and is laid out completely in 2 books, The Fourth Turning in 1996, and The Fourth Turning is Here in 2023. Most of the major structure-changing events in history seem to happen in roughly 80-year cycles. These events shape the generations that experience them, and in turn, those generations shape the events that are to come. You can think of this as the seasons of time in society. The last metaphorical spring that we had was post-WW2. This was an era of prosperity when new ideas are taking root and things are starting to grow. The last metaphorical summer we had was the 1960s and the 70s, and this was an era of things coming into bloom and starting to find themselves. The last fall that we had started in the 1980s, and this is where the metaphorical leaves start falling off the trees and the systems and structures that were put in place that we used to know start to crumble and disintegrate. And the last winter started in 2008 until the present, and this is where the systems completely give way. They start to break down, and they make room for a new system to be put into place, a new spring. Based on the outcries of society since 2008, the struggles that we have faced have been ones of domestic economic insecurity and global economic imperial despair, at least from my vantage point. And like I've talked about before, I make labor content, so my view of the world is from the wage earner's perspective. Our global system in this societal period of time that we've been in has had 2 main economic and social beliefs, that of capitalism and that of socialism. The 2 global powers that permeated this landscape have something in common: an authoritarian, massively influential state that has been rewriting the social contract for us. And there's been different variations and different alternatives to these 2 systems since the 1800s. Syndicalism. It's what I base my name off of. The basic principle of this philosophy in action is that any state, no matter how well-intentioned, will ultimately come to dominate the people that it rules, because the basic function of the state is to control the economics and to exert its will. It is nothing that can be separated from it. It is intrinsically a part of the system. In syndicalist philosophy, the basic way to rewrite that social contract is through an empowered and educated working class, which is why I spend time on here and in my personal life trying to help other people. Can anyone give me one good reason why we are obsessed with this idea of having one leader or one ruler? And if you're going to try to tell me that it's just human nature, there's another book for that. We are groomed in our society to be obsessed with this idea of getting rich and paying homage to this golden calf that's the economy. Or are you like me? When you sit back and you wonder when the rest of the people are going to realize there's a lot more of us than there is them. And if you do have that thought, you might be a syndicalist. And people precisely did have those thoughts in Spain in 1936 through 1939. And it still continues today in places like northern Syria with the Rojavan people. So if you feel like it's crumbling, It's because it is. The social contract is up for renegotiations, but we have the bargaining power. And it's going to take a little bit of class consciousness and a little bit of working people solidarity. But we have to make sure we don't let the same thing happen that happened in the past for the next metaphorical spring.